Watching the Watchers, the rise of integrated surveillance systems in law enforcement. In the quiet corners of our digital age, a new architecture of observation has been steadily constructed, brick by digital brick, creating an unprecedented capacity for law enforcement to monitor, track, and analyze the movements of citizens. This invisible infrastructure, composed of networked cameras, sensors, drones, and artificial intelligence, represents not merely a technical evolution, but a profound reconfiguration of the relationship between the state and its citizens. The omnipresent eye, understanding integrated surveillance systems. Integrated surveillance systems represent the convergence of multiple monitoring technologies into coordinated networks that allow law enforcement agencies to collect, analyze, and act upon vast amounts of data. Unlike the isolated CCTV cameras of previous decades, today's surveillance architecture connects diverse technologies through sophisticated data integration platforms. As described in a recent study from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, surveillance has transformed from something once considered a clear and present danger to democratic rights and freedoms to being promoted as a tool for improving lives. This shift reflects a fundamental reframing of surveillance from a threat to a public good. The components of these systems typically include 1. Physical surveillance infrastructure, camera networks, license plate readers, drones, and mobile surveillance units. 2. Digital monitoring tools, social media tracking software, cell site simulators, and internet traffic analysis. 3. Analytical systems, artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms that process and derive insights from collected data. 4. Integration platforms, software that combines data from various sources into unified analytical frameworks. Law enforcement agencies deploy these systems with several stated objectives: and crime prevention through deterrence, more efficient allocation of police resources, and enhanced investigative capabilities, improved response times to emergent situations, and prediction of future criminal activity. According to Mumtaz et al., digital health surveillance technology has demonstrated effectiveness in tracing disease outbreaks, monitoring population movements, and facilitating contact tracing during epidemics. The same fundamental architecture is applied to crime control, creating what some researchers call digital enclosures around public spaces. The technological arsenal, tools of modern surveillance, aerial observation, drones, and beyond. The drone, once exclusively a military technology, has been domesticated into a common law enforcement tool. Police departments across the United States now routinely deploy unmanned aerial vehicles for surveillance operations, crowd monitoring, and search and rescue missions. These devices vary from small consumer-grade quadcopters to sophisticated models equipped with thermal imaging, facial recognition capabilities, and extended flight times. As Feldstein and Wong note, extensive aerial surveillance carried out by law enforcement agencies has accelerated, particularly in response to protests like the Black Lives Matter movement. Baltimore police, for example, secretly deployed aerial drones to conduct daily surveillance over the city's residents. With powerful cameras, capture aerial images of the entire city and photos snapped every second with planes circling the city for up to 10 hours a day. Digital tracking, license plate readers, and mobile surveillance. License plate readers represent another pervasive surveillance technology. These systems automatically capture license plate numbers, along with timestamps and location data, creating massive databases of vehicle movements. Fixed LPRs are mounted on infrastructure like bridges, highway overpasses, and traffic lights, while mobile units are attached to police vehicles, creating a distributed network of tracking points. According to Risk Strategy Group, video analytics has emerged as a powerful solution for detecting incidents and monitoring threats, leveraging artificial intelligence algorithms to analyze video data and provide valuable insights. This allows for automated tracking of vehicles across jurisdictions and the creation of movement profiles for individual cars. Mobile surveillance units extend these capabilities with portable camera systems that can be rapidly deployed to areas of interest. These units often incorporate multiple surveillance technologies, including cameras with pan-tilt-zoom capabilities, gunshot detection systems, and environmental sensors. The digital dragnet, social media monitoring, and cell site simulators. Beyond physical surveillance, law enforcement agencies increasingly employ digital monitoring tools to track online activities. Specialized software allows for the automated scanning of social media platforms to identify potential threats, track individuals of interest, and analyze network connections between subjects. Cell site simulators represent another controversial technology that mimics cell phone towers to intercept communications data from all mobile devices in a given area. These devices can identify the presence of specific phones, track movements, and in some cases, intercept communications content. As Thomas explains, emerging technologies go far beyond facial recognition, extending to gait recognition, heartbeat detection, Wi-Fi-based movement tracking, and even microbial and scent monitoring. These innovations demonstrate how surveillance is becoming increasingly difficult to evade as it penetrates multiple dimensions of human existence. The algorithmic lens, artificial intelligence, and surveillance. The true power of modern surveillance systems lies not merely in their capacity to collect data, but in their ability to analyze and derive meaning from vast information repositories. This is where artificial intelligence and machine learning have fundamentally transformed the surveillance landscape. From observation to prediction, AI systems enhance surveillance data analysis in several key ways. 1. Pattern recognition. Algorithms can identify unusual behaviors or objects in video feeds far more efficiently than human observers. 2. Predictive analytics. By analyzing historical crime data alongside other variables, AI systems attempt to forecast where and when future crimes may occur. 3. Facial and object recognition. Machine learning enables the automated identification of individuals and items of interest across multiple data sources. 4. Anomaly detection. AI can flag deviations from established patterns that might indicate criminal activity. According to Number Analytics, AI and machine learning are at the forefront of the smart surveillance revolution. These technologies enable surveillance systems to analyze data in real time, detect anomalies, and make predictions. This represents a shift from reactive to proactive policing models, the double-edged sword. However, these capabilities come with significant concerns. As the ACLU notes, we are living in an age of dramatic technological progress, but one result has been a rash of new spying and surveillance technologies. The deployment of these technologies happens faster than our social, political, educational, or legal systems can react, creating a land rush in which governments deploy new privacy-invasive technologies before citizens are even aware they exist. The integration of AI into surveillance systems raises several critical issues. 1. Algorithmic bias. Machine learning systems reflect the biases present in their training data, potentially perpetuating discriminatory practices. 2. Black box decision-making. Many AI systems operate as opaque black boxes, making it difficult to understand or challenge their conclusions. 3. Automation of suspicion. Predictive systems may lower the threshold for police intervention by converting statistical correlations into grounds for suspicion. 4. False positives. No AI system is perfect, and errors in high-stakes contexts can have serious consequences for misidentified individuals. As Feldstein observes in his study of global AI surveillance trends, liberal democracies are major users of AI surveillance, with 51% of advanced democracies deploying these systems. However, he notes that the most important factor determining whether governments will deploy this technology for repressive purposes is the quality of their governance. Beyond technical efficiency, the metaphysical implications. The rise of integrated surveillance systems raises profound questions that transcend mere technical considerations. These systems fundamentally alter the nature of public space, transforming open forums into monitored zones where every action potentially feeds into analytical frameworks designed to categorize and predict behavior. This transformation carries deep philosophical implications. When public spaces become sites of continuous observation, they cease to function as neutral grounds for civic engagement. Instead, they become stages where individuals perform under the knowledge or suspicion of being watched. This creates what sociologist David Lyon has termed the chilling effect, where people modify their behavior not because of explicit coercion, but due to the internalized awareness of observation. The French philosopher Michel Foucault's concept of the Panopticon, a prison design where all inmates can potentially be watched at any time, though they never know when, becomes an apt metaphor for our surveillance society. The power of such a system lies not in constant actual observation, but in the psychological effect of potential observation. Citizens begin to police themselves, adjusting their behavior to avoid appearing suspicious to unseen watchers. As noted in Patton's 2023 study, early OECD documents from the 1970s expressed concern that surveillance technology could stifle individual growth and self-determination. There was a belief that the freedom to grow would be threatened by systems that created a continuous feedback of his previous acts, omissions, and imperfections frozen in the indelible memory of a computer. This profound concern has largely disappeared from current policy discussions, replaced by technical considerations of efficiency and effectiveness. Case studies: the surveillance tapestry in American cities. The abstract nature of surveillance infrastructure becomes concrete when examining its implementation across American cities. These case studies reveal both the capabilities and limitations of integrated systems in real-world contexts. New York City, the Domain Awareness System. New York City's Domain Awareness System, developed in partnership with Microsoft, represents one of the most sophisticated urban surveillance networks in the United States. The system integrates data from approximately 18,000 CCTV cameras, license plate readers, radiation detectors, and law enforcement databases into a unified platform accessible to police officers via mobile devices. The DAs allows officers to access real-time video feeds, review historical footage, track vehicles across the city, and receive automated alerts about suspicious activities. The system exemplifies how public-private partnerships shape surveillance infrastructure, with Microsoft receiving a percentage of profits from selling the system to other jurisdictions. Baltimore, aerial surveillance and community response. Baltimore's experience with aerial surveillance demonstrates both the technological capabilities and civic tensions inherent in advanced monitoring systems. The city implemented an aerial investigation research program that used aircraft equipped with wide-angle cameras to continuously photograph 90% of the city. The program, initially funded privately and implemented without public knowledge, created a virtual time machine allowing investigators to track movements retroactively across the urban landscape. The revelation of this program sparked significant community backlash and legal challenges based on Fourth Amendment concerns. The case illustrates how surveillance technologies often operate in gray areas of existing law and the importance of community consent in their deployment. Chicago. Predictive policing algorithms. Chicago's strategic subject list, later renamed the Crime and Victimization Risk Model, employed predictive algorithms to identify individuals at elevated risk of being involved in gun violence. The system assigned risk scores based on factors including age, criminal history, gang affiliations, and previous interactions with the criminal justice system. Critics raised concerns about algorithmic bias, lack of transparency, and the potential for creating self-fulfilling prophecies when individuals were targeted based on statistical projections rather than actual behavior. The case highlights the ethical complications of using predictive analytics to guide enforcement priorities. The legal framework, rules for the watchers. The American legal framework governing surveillance remains fragmented and often lags behind technological capabilities. The primary constitutional restraint comes from the Fourth Amendment's prohibition against unreasonable searches and seizures. But courts have struggled to apply this 18th century principle to 21st century technologies. As Stanford Law School's Young explains, electronic surveillance presents unique challenges for legal doctrine. While courts have recognized that the Fourth Amendment protects against government collection of information in which people have a reasonable expectation of privacy, determining what people can reasonably expect to keep private has become increasingly difficult as a result of the complex and often unconscious ways in which people share information using new technologies. Key legal principles include 1. Reasonable expectation of privacy, established in Katz v. United States. This standard asks whether an individual has a subjective expectation of privacy that society recognizes as reasonable. 2. Third-party doctrine. Information voluntarily shared with third parties traditionally receives less Fourth Amendment protection. 3. Mosaic theory. Some courts have recognized that aggregating individually innocuous data points can create a revealing mosaic that deserves constitutional protection. Recent Supreme Court decisions like Carpenter v. United States have begun to recognize the unique privacy implications of digital surveillance, holding that police generally need a warrant to access historical cell phone location data. However, many surveillance technologies operate in areas where legal precedent remains unclear or outdated. The ethical quandary, safety versus liberty. The central ethical tension in surveillance discourse revolves around balancing public safety with personal liberty. Proponents argue that surveillance technologies enhance security by deterring crime, improving investigative capabilities, and enabling more efficient policing. Critics counter that pervasive monitoring chills free expression, disproportionately impacts marginalized communities, and fundamentally alters the relationship between citizens and the state. As Reviglio argues, data brokers have established a lucrative trade in the predictive promise of behavioral insights derived through profiling. This creates what the JSTOR article Politics of Digital Surveillance, National Security and Privacy describes as an asymmetric relationship between the watchers and the watched that creates new dimensions of insecurity. Key ethical considerations include 1. Consent and transparency. To what extent should communities have input into the surveillance systems deployed in their neighborhoods? 2. Algorithmic accountability. How can we ensure that automated systems don't perpetuate or amplify existing biases? 3. Proportionality. Does the security benefit of a particular surveillance tool justify its privacy impact? 4. Disproportionate impacts. Do surveillance technologies affect all communities equally, or do they reinforce existing patterns of over-policing in marginalized areas? The 2019 OECD report described by Patton shows how quickly ethical frameworks can shift. Surveillance practices once considered undemocratic became rebranded as neutral, or even positive, when framed as tools to achieve customization in service delivery or public interest goals such as public health or security. The future watchtower, where surveillance is heading. The trajectory of surveillance technology points towards systems that are increasingly automated, integrated, and predictive. Several emerging trends deserve particular attention. Biometric expansion beyond facial recognition. While facial recognition has received significant public attention, law enforcement agencies are exploring additional biometric identifiers. As Thomas explains, these include gait recognition, heartbeat detection through laser Doppler vibrometry, and even microbial signatures from the cells we shed. These technologies raise novel privacy concerns because many are designed to work at a distance without the subject's knowledge or consent. Unlike traditional biometrics like fingerprints, which require physical contact, these passive biometrics can be collected surreptitiously. Ambient intelligence and the Internet of Things. The proliferation of network sensors, from smart streetlights to acoustic gunshot detectors, is creating environments where surveillance capabilities are embedded in the urban infrastructure itself. As ordinary objects become data collection points, the distinction between being in public and being surveilled effectively disappears. This trend toward ambient intelligence allows for more comprehensive monitoring with less visible infrastructure. When combined with AI analytics, these systems can detect behavioral anomalies, track movements across multiple sensor zones, and create detailed profiles of individual activity patterns. Predictive systems and preemptive intervention. Perhaps the most philosophically troubling development is the move towards systems that claim to predict future criminal behavior. These range from place-based models that forecast crime hotspots to individual risk assessments that attempt to identify people likely to commit or be victims of crimes. These systems raise profound questions about determinism, free will, and the presumption of innocence. When enforcement resources are allocated based on statistical predictions rather than actual behavior, we risk creating self-fulfilling prophecies where increased police presence in predicted high-crime areas leads to more arrests, which in turn reinforces the algorithm's assessment. Reclaiming autonomy toward ethical surveillance. The challenge before us is not to eliminate surveillance technologies, they are firmly embedded in modern policing, but to develop frameworks that harness their benefits while mitigating their risks to civil liberties and social equity. Several principles can guide this effort. 1. Democratic oversight. Surveillance technology should be deployed only with transparent public deliberation and meaningful community input. 2. Minimization. Data collection should be limited to what is necessary for specific, articulated public safety objectives. 3. Equity impact assessments. Deployments should be evaluated for their potential disparate impacts on different communities. 4. Sunset provisions. Surveillance programs should require periodic review and reauthorization, rather than becoming permanent fixtures. 5. Accountability mechanisms, clear policies should govern data access, retention, and sharing, with consequences for misuse. As Bucci et al. Observe, dataveillance produces chilling effects with respect to participation in deliberative democracies, where even the fear of surveillance can produce self-censorship, conformity, or anticipatory obedience. These effects undermine the very foundations of democratic society. Conclusion: seeing beyond the surveillance paradigm, the integrated surveillance systems deployed by law enforcement agencies across the United States represent more than technological upgrades to traditional policing. They embody a profound shift in how authority observes, categorizes, and intervenes in the lives of citizens. This transformation carries implications that extend beyond crime control to the basic relationship between individuals and the state. As we navigate this new landscape, we must resist the tendency to frame surveillance solely in terms of technical efficiency or security outcomes. Instead, we must engage with the deeper questions these systems raise. What kind of society do we become when observation is omnipresent? How does the awareness of being watched reshape our behavior, our relationships, and our capacity for dissent? What becomes of privacy when our movements, associations, and activities leave digital traces that can be aggregated and analyzed without our knowledge? The answers to these questions will shape not just our legal frameworks, but our experience of citizenship in the digital age. The surveillance infrastructure being built today creates the conditions of possibility for the society of tomorrow. It falls to us, citizens, policymakers, and technologists alike, to ensure that this architecture serves our highest democratic values rather than undermining them. As we stand at this crossroads, we would do well to remember that the most essential freedom may be the freedom from constant observation, the space to think, to grow, and to act without performing for an unseen audience. This is not merely a matter of privacy, but of preserving the conditions for authentic human development and democratic participation. The watchers are here to stay. The question is whether we will retain the wisdom and courage to watch the watchers with equal vigilance.